Members, I want to close here. We have a lot of business to carry. Yes, Sabina? On Kiptanui?
No. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to give my condolences about Leonard Mambo Mbotela. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And on the onset, Mr. Speaker, I am an old journalist, and I happen to work with Leonard Mambo Mbotela as one of our senior fathers in broadcasting, a man who inspired majority of us when we were young people. And I was very proud, Mr. Speaker, when I joined the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation to work closely with him. He was a good mentor. He was a man, Mr. Speaker, who even stood with the government even during the coup, and a man who offered himself. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, majority of these senior people in broadcasting, Mr. Speaker, they end up having a very difficult life, and especially at the old age. Mr. Speaker, I would want to urge the Committee on Communication, and especially Honorable Kiarie, I know he's here. It is important that we look at the talents that we have. We see how we can be able to build the talents. We see how we can be able to take care, especially those old people who are there, who entertained us, who offered themselves. And you know, the salary then at KBC was very little, very, very small. And even looking at the salaries that the current journalists who work in Kenya Broadcasting Corporation are paid. We have the best talents there. We need to focus and put more money in Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. They build young talents, but they end up either being poached by other media houses. And since it is a training ground, I'll urge the Committee on Communication to relook at the perks that are given to the people who are working at Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, and also have a pension scheme, because the money they earn is very little. Majority of them are not even in permanent and pensionable. They are actually called one name, which is called artists, and which they are normally on like a casual basis, and a majority of them have worked even for 20, 30 years, but not on permanent basis. And that means at their old age, they have not saved anything. If you have a pension scheme where they can be able to be supported even by the government, celebrated, and especially even when we are doing the honors, those are the ones who need to get the head of state commendation and recognition, because we know entertainment and the therapy they give in humor, it has actually helped a lot of people. And especially, Mr. Speaker, this time where everybody seems to be upset about nothing and about everything, where there's a lot of things happening within the country and the stress levels are high. These people who work as therapists, who bring humor, who bring happiness to us, who wake up in the morning to inform us what is happening in the country, who sometimes, some of them are comedians, we need to take good care of them because they're also taking good care of our hearts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may Leonard Mambo Mbotela rest in peace, and I hope the government can have something to support his family. I thank you.
Thank you. We'll end up there on those tributes, honorable members. I also knew Leonard Mambo Mbotela as an undergraduate student at the University of Nairobi when we used to run a program at VOK known as Books and Bookmen. You read books and you go to the radio to discuss with the rest of Kenyans. We used to run it with Professor Chris Wanjala, the late, Professor Okot Bitek, and a few other professors. In 1982, I represented the coup plotters who overthrew the government of President Moi for 2 hours. And Leonard Mambo Mbotela was a key witness in the case against Senior Private Ezekiel Ochuka and Senior Private Okumu, who are my clients. And you could feel his patriotism when he represented the country. So for the honor of the late Honorable Kiptanui and Leonard Mambo Mbotela, shall we be upstanding for a minute's silence? May their souls rest in eternal peace. Amen. Thank you. And for you members and leaders like Owen Bayer, this is the moment where you should reflect and see that the country needs a hero's corner to bury people like Leonard Mambo Mbotela. It is disheartening to hear that we are going to bury Leonard Mambo Mbotela in Langata Cemetery. Probably his grave will be on top of a grave, knowing how crowded the place is. Next order. Honorable members, I'll direct that before we go to the procedural motions, we dispose of all the bills at first reading stage. So clerk, call out orders 20 to 25 before we come back to order number 8. Yes, Jared Okello, what's the point of order? Give Jared Okello the mic.
I thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. There is an issue that I need your direction on, Honorable Speaker. A matter has always been brought before this House intermittently at various intervals, but the last time that it was brought here, which I believe is 6 months ago, you gave a direction. And this relates to hardship allowance, Honorable Speaker. Now, when you gave that direction, Honorable Speaker, a multi-agency team that was brought in by the government through various agencies undertook a survey across the country, particularly on areas that were touched by the agitation for inclusion on hardship allowance, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I'm aware that a report was done and was presented to the Ministry of Public Service, Honorable Speaker. But as is characteristic of this country, Honorable Speaker, very good reports that ought to infuse changes where necessary gather dust in these offices, Honorable Speaker. Up to now, that report has not been presented either to Parliament that came up with this matter through your direction, or be taken to the Ministry of Treasury and Economic Planning, Honorable Speaker, for direction, because it is a matter that touches on more funding to go towards addressing the challenges that bedevil our people in hardship areas, Honorable Speaker. So I need your direction at this point, Honorable Speaker, to ask the Ministry of Public Service to do the necessary, because they have the reports with them there, either to bring them here or forward them to Treasury, so that the areas that were excluded inadvertently or otherwise can be incorporated into this scheme, Honorable Speaker. Because, as you know, there are many areas that have been disenfranchised, and we spoke about this. Where I come from, for example, and a representative of the wishes of many people here, I sit between Muhoroni and Nyakach constituencies, both of which are benefiting from hardship allowance. Immediately, teachers are brought into Nyando constituency. They apply to be transferred to those areas because of this incentive, Honorable Speaker. So the report is out. The report is available. Direct, Honorable Speaker, that the necessary channels that ought to ensue need to take shape, Honorable Speaker. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jared. Owen Bayer, can you follow up that matter and report to the House on Wednesday afternoon next week?
All right, thank you very much.
I think that's a matter that, as Jared Okello rightly puts it, in the last session, it was raised here not less than 3-4 times.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Sorry,
Ruku. Give Ruku the mic. Is it on the same issue or something different?
It's on a similar issue.
Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, before we broke for recess, you gave instructions that the first thing which should be done when we come here is for the chairman of Health Committee to give a report on the status of the rust expense and death gratuity payment to the survivors and beneficiaries of National Health Insurance Fund and Public Service Superannuation Scheme. I brought this matter about 3 times, Mr. Speaker, and the Committee of Health, the Departmental Committee of Health, failed to bring this matter to give a statement as far as this issue is concerned, and you gave a directive that first thing before we do anything, when we come back, is for the chairman of Departmental Committee of Health to give the report or to table the report on this matter. And from the look of things, Mr. Speaker, we are starting the business without the chairman of Departmental Committee on Health giving the status of this issue.
Well noted, Owen Bayer.
Thank
Note
you.
that and see if a response and attention can be dealt with by Thursday next week.
Much obliged, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, CNN. What was it? On the same hardship issue?
Yes, it's on the same issue, but Mr. Speaker, I was not sure whether Owen Bayer was actually aware what you requested him to do, but he has clarified, he has gotten what he's supposed to follow up. Thank you, sir.
You have capacity to know whether he's understanding or not? From where you are sitting? Yes, Owen.
Honorable Speaker, I have immense capacity. You know, the Honorable CNN failed to lift a plane after having been trained for 8 years as a pilot. So we can continue to doubt his ability as a failed pilot. But I have heard, Honorable Speaker, and we're going to ensure that the House is well informed. I'm informed that the reports from the Honorable Pokose are actually ready. Yes, you're aware, and we'll just
Directed
make sure
that it will be on Tuesday.
that on the same that day, Honorable Speaker, they are tabled in the House, and we'll also get the report that Jared has requested.